I never told my son about my $40,000 monthly salary, even though he always saw me living simply. One day, he invited me to dinner with his wife's parents, who were visiting from abroad. I decided to see how they would treat someone poor by pretending to be a broke and naive mother. But the moment I entered that restaurant, everything changed. What happened that night shocked my daughter-in-law and her family in a way they never expected. And honestly, they had it coming. Let me explain how it all began and who I really am. My son Marcus, now 35, never knew the truth about me. To him, I was just the woman who left early for work, came home tired, cooked whatever was available, just an ordinary office worker, maybe a secretary, nothing special. I never corrected him. I never told him that I earned $40,000 a month or that I'd been a senior executive at a multinational company for almost 20 years, signing million-dollar contracts and making decisions that affected thousands of people. Why tell him? Money was never something I needed to display like an achievement. I grew up in a time when dignity was shown through actions, and silence spoke louder than empty words. So I kept my truth to myself. I stayed in the same modest apartment for years, used the same old leather handbag until it wore out, bought discounted clothes, cooked at home, saved and invested everything, and quietly became wealthy. Because real power doesn't boast. It observes. I was observing closely the day Marcus called me. His voice sounded nervous, like when he was a boy who'd done something wrong. "Mom, I need a favor. Simone's parents are visiting from overseas. They want to meet you. We're having dinner on Saturday. Please come." Something about his tone unsettled me. It didn't sound like a son inviting his mother. It sounded like someone hoping she wouldn't embarrass him. "Do they know anything about me?" I asked calmly. There was a pause. Then Marcus said, "I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're simple, that you don't have much." There it was. The word simple, as if my whole life could be summed up by that one word, as if I were someone to apologize for. I took a deep breath. "Okay, Marcus, I'll be there," I said. I looked around my small but comfortable living room. Old furniture, bare walls, a small TV. Nothing impressive. Then I decided, if my son thought I was poor, and his wife's parents were ready to judge, I'd give them exactly what they expected. I would act broke, naive, and unrefined. I wanted to see how they treated someone with nothing. I suspected Simone and her family valued people only by their wealth. And my instincts rarely failed. Saturday came. I put on the worst outfit I owned, a shapeless, wrinkled gray dress, worn-out shoes, no jewelry, not even a watch. I carried an old canvas tote, tied my hair into a messy ponytail, and looked in the mirror. I looked like a woman beaten by life. Forgettable. Perfect. I took a taxi to the address, a luxurious restaurant in the city's most exclusive area. The kind where menus have no prices and each table setting costs more than most people's monthly income. As we drove, I felt a mix of anticipation and sadness. Anticipation, because I knew something revealing was about to happen. Sadness, because I still hoped they'd treat me kindly, that they'd see beyond appearances, but the part of me that had worked among corporate sharks knew better. When I arrived, warm lights glowed, a doorman in white gloves greeted guests, and elegant people filled the entrance. I paid the driver, stepped out, took a deep breath, and walked in. Marcus was standing by a long table near the window, dressed in a dark suit and polished shoes, looking anxious. Simone stood beside him in a cream dress with gold accents and flawless hair, impeccable as always. She wasn't looking at me, but at the door with a strained, embarrassed expression. Then I saw her parents, already seated like royalty. Her mother, Veronica, wore a sequined emerald dress with jewelry on every finger and a sleek bun. Her beauty was cold and calculated. Her husband, Franklin, wore a gray suit and an oversized watch, his face stern and serious. They looked like models from a luxury magazine. I walked toward them slowly, taking small, unsure steps. Marcus saw me first, his eyes widening as he looked me over. "Mom, you came," he said, sounding uneasy. "Of course, son. I'm here," I replied softly, smiling shyly like someone out of place. Simone greeted me with a quick, cold kiss. "Mother-in-law, it's nice to see you," she said, though her eyes said otherwise. Then she introduced me to her parents in an awkward tone. "Dad, Mom, this is Marcus's mother." Veronica looked me over. head to toe. And in that instant, I saw everything. The judgment, the disdain, the disappointment. Her eyes lingered on my wrinkled dress, old shoes, and canvas bag. She finally extended a hand. "A pleasure," she said briefly, her handshake cold and weak. Franklin followed with the same shallow politeness. I sat at the end of the table, the farthest seat, like an afterthought. No one helped me with my chair. No one asked if I was comfortable. The waiter arrived with heavy French menus. I opened mine and pretended not to understand a word. Veronica looked at me. "Do you need help with the menu?" She asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, please." "I don't know what these words mean," I replied softly, my voice small and timid. She sighed and ordered for me. "Something simple," she said. "Something that doesn't cost too much. We don't want to overdo it." The words lingered in the air. Franklin nodded. Marcus looked away. Simone played with her napkin. No one said a word, and I just watched. Veronica started with small talk, their trip from abroad, how tiring the flight was, how different things were here. Then, she shifted the conversation toward money. She mentioned their hotel, $1,000 a night. Then the luxury car they had rented. Then the stores they had visited. We bought a few things. Nothing major, just a few thousand, she said, watching me, waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to be impressed. I simply nodded. "How nice," I said. "That's lovely," she continued. "You know, Ara, we've always been careful with money. We worked hard, invested well. Now we have properties in 3 countries. Franklin has major businesses, and I oversee our investments." She smiled proudly. "And what exactly do you do?" Her tone was sweet but cutting. "I work in an office," I said, lowering my gaze. "A bit of everything. Paperwork, filing, simple things." Veronica glanced at Franklin. "Ah, I see. Administrative work. That's fine. It's honest. All jobs are respectable, right?" "Of course," I replied. The food arrived, large plates with tiny portions arranged like artwork. Veronica cut her steak with precision. "This costs $80, she said. "But it's worth it. Quality is worth paying for. One can't just eat anything, right?" I nodded. "Of course, you're right." Marcus tried to change the subject, talking about his work and some projects. Veronica interrupted him. "Son, does your mother live alone?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, she has a small apartment." Veronica looked at me with fake sympathy. "It must be hard, isn't it? Living alone at your age without much help? And does your salary cover everything?" I felt the trap closing in. "I manage," I said quietly. "I save where I can." "I don't need much." Veronica sighed dramatically. "Oh, Ara, you are so brave. I truly admire women who struggle alone. Although, of course, every mother wishes to give her child more, a better life. But well, everyone gives what they can." There it was. The subtle insult. She was saying I hadn't been enough for my son, that I was a poor, inadequate mother. Simone stared at her plate. Marcus clenched his fists under the table. I just smiled. "Yes, you're right. Everyone gives what they can," Veronica continued. "We always made sure Simone had the best. She went to the best schools, traveled, learned 4 languages. Now she has an excellent job, earns very well. And when she married Marcus, we helped them a lot. We gave them money for their house down payment and paid for their honeymoon. We believe in supporting our children." Then she looked straight at me. "And were you able to help Marcus with anything when they got married?" The question hit like a knife. "Not much," I said quietly. "I gave what I could." "A small gift," Veronica smiled. "How sweet. Every detail counts, right? The amount doesn't matter." "The intention does." That's when I felt the anger rise inside me. It wasn't loud or sudden. It was cold, steady, like a frozen river. I kept my calm smile and let Veronica continue. Because people like her, they talk. They brag. They expose their own emptiness the more they speak. She took a sip of red wine, swirling it like an expert. "This wine is from an exclusive region in France," she said. "It costs $200 a bottle. But when you know quality, you don't skimp." "Do you drink wine, Ara?" "Only on special occasions," I replied. "And usually the cheapest one. I don't know much about these things." Veronica smiled condescendingly. "Oh, don't worry. Not everyone has a trained palate. That comes with experience, with travel, with education. Franklin and I have visited vineyards across Europe, South America, and California. We're quite knowledgeable." Franklin nodded. "It's a hobby, something we enjoy." Simone is learning too. She has good taste. She gets that from us. Simone gave a weak smile. Thanks, Mom. Veronica turned to me again. And you, Ara? Do you have any hobbies? Anything you enjoy in your free time? I shrugged. I watch television, cook, walk in the park. Simple things. Veronica and Franklin exchanged another glance, filled with quiet judgment. How lovely, Veronica said. Simple things have their charm too, although, of course, one always aspires to more. To see the world, to grow, to experience new things. But not everyone has those opportunities. I nodded. You're right. Not everyone has those opportunities. The waiter arrived with dessert. Tiny, elegant portions that looked like edible art. Veronica ordered the most expensive one. $30 for a slice of cake, she said proudly. It has edible gold on top. See those flakes? Only the best restaurants offer that. I ate my simpler, cheaper dessert in silence. Then Veronica leaned forward. You know, Ara, I think it's important we talk about something as a family now that we're all here. Her tone turned serious, almost motherly. Marcus is our son-in-law, and we love him. Simone loves him, and we respect that. But as parents, we always want the best for our daughter. Marcus tensed up. Mom, I don't think this is the time. Let me finish, son, Veronica said, raising her hand. This is important. She looked straight at me. Ara, I know you did your best raising Marcus. It couldn't have been easy alone. And I respect that. But now, Marcus is in a different stage of life. He's married. He has responsibilities. He and Simone deserve stability. Stability? I asked softly. Yes, she said. Financial and emotional stability. We've helped them a lot and will continue to help. But we think it's important that Marcus doesn't have unnecessary burdens. Her meaning was clear. She was calling me a burden. Simone stared down at her plate. Marcus's jaw tightened. Burdens? I repeated. Veronica sighed. I don't want to sound harsh, Ara, but at your age, living alone with a limited salary, it's natural for Marcus to worry about you. It's good he cares, but we don't want that concern to affect his marriage. Do you understand me? Perfectly, I said calmly. I'm glad, she smiled. That's why we wanted to talk. Franklin and I have been thinking we could help you financially. Give you a small monthly allowance, something to make life easier. Of course, it would be modest, but it would help. I stayed silent. Watching her, she continued. And in return, we just ask you to respect Marcus and Simone's space. Not to visit too often, not to pressure them. Let them build their life freely, without interference. How does that sound? There it was, the offer, the bribe disguised as kindness. They wanted to buy me off, to pay me to disappear from my son's life, to stop embarrassing their daughter with my supposed poverty. Marcus stood up, furious. Mom, that's enough. You don't have to... Marcus, calm down, Veronica interrupted. We're talking like adults. Your mother understands, right? I picked up my napkin, calmly wiped my lips, took a sip of water, and let the silence grow. Everyone stared at me. Veronica looked expectant, Franklin arrogant, Simone ashamed, and Marcus desperate. Then I spoke. My voice sounded different this time. It wasn't timid or small anymore. It was calm, steady, and cold. That's an interesting offer, Veronica. Truly generous of you. Veronica smiled, satisfied. I'm glad you see it that way. I nodded. But I have a few questions, just to understand clearly. Veronica blinked. Of course, ask whatever you like. I leaned forward slightly. How much exactly would you call a modest monthly allowance? Veronica hesitated. Well, maybe $500, perhaps $700, depending. I see, I said. So $700 a month for me to disappear from my son's life? Veronica frowned. I wouldn't put it like that. But I would, I replied evenly. That's exactly how you put it. She shifted in her seat. Ara, don't misunderstand us. We only want to help. Of course, I said. Help. Like you helped with the house down payment? How much was that? $40,000, Veronica answered proudly. $40,000, generous indeed. And the honeymoon? $15,000, she said. It was a 3-week trip through Europe. Incredible, I replied. So you've invested about $55,000 in Marcus and Simone. When you love your children, you don't hold back, Veronica said confidently. You're right, I nodded. When you love your children, you don't hold back. But tell me, Veronica, did that investment buy you anything? Veronica blinked. What do you mean? Did it buy respect? Or love? Or just obedience? The air grew tense. Veronica's smile disappeared. Excuse me. You've spent all evening talking about money, what things cost, what you own, but not once have you asked how I am, if I'm happy, or if I need company. You've only measured my worth in dollars. Apparently, I'm worth $700 a month. Veronica tried to speak, but I cut her off. Yes, you did. Since I arrived, you've been evaluating my value by your wallet. And do you know what I've learned, Veronica? People who talk constantly about money usually don't understand real value at all. Franklin interrupted. You're misinterpreting my wife's intentions. I looked directly at him. And what are her intentions? To humiliate me, to pity me? Or to offer charity so I'll disappear? He opened his mouth but stayed silent. Marcus looked pale. Mom, please, I stopped him gently. No, Marcus, I've been silent long enough. I set my napkin down and leaned back in my chair. The timid woman they met was gone. I met Veronica's eyes. She held my gaze for a second before looking away. Something had shifted. Veronica, I said, you mentioned admiring women who struggle alone, who are brave. Yes, she answered cautiously. So tell me, and have you ever struggled alone? Worked without your husband's support? Built something entirely by yourself? Veronica hesitated. I have my own achievements. Like what? I asked. I manage our investments. I oversee our properties. I make important business decisions. Ah, I nodded. Businesses your husband built, properties you bought together, money he earned. Am I wrong? Franklin frowned. That's not fair. My wife works just as hard as I do. I'm sure she does, I replied calmly. But there's a difference between managing existing wealth and creating it from nothing. Between inheriting success and building it brick by brick. Veronica pressed her lips together. I don't know where this is going, Ara. Let me explain, I said. 40 years ago, I was 23. I worked as a secretary in a small company. Minimum wage. Rented room. Cheap food. Alone. Marcus looked shocked. I had never told him this much. One day I got pregnant. The father disappeared. My family turned away. I had to choose, give up or keep going. I chose to keep going. I worked until the day I gave birth and went back 2 weeks later. A neighbor took care of Marcus while I worked 12-hour days. I paused, took a sip of water, then continued. I didn't stay a secretary. I studied at night, learned English from the library, studied accounting, finance, management, everything I could. I did it all alone while raising a child, paying for rent, food, and medicine. Veronica stared down at her plate, her confidence fading. And do you know what happened, Veronica? I moved up from secretary to assistant, assistant to coordinator, coordinator to manager, and eventually director. It took me 20 years of constant effort. But I made it. I looked around the table. Do you know how much I earn now? Veronica shook her head slowly. $40,000 a month, I said. The silence was absolute. Marcus dropped his fork. Simone froze. Franklin frowned. Veronica stared in disbelief. Yes, I repeated. $40,000 every month for nearly 2 decades. That's close to $10 million in gross income throughout my career, not counting bonuses or investments. Veronica stuttered. You earn that much? That's impossible. It's true, I said simply. I'm the regional operations director for a multinational company. I oversee 5 countries, manage budgets worth hundreds of millions, and make decisions that affect over 10,000 employees. Marcus whispered, Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Because you didn't need to know, I replied softly. I wanted you to grow up valuing effort, not money. I wanted you to become a good man, not a spoiled heir. Money corrupts, Marcus, and I wouldn't let it corrupt you. Simone spoke quietly. Then why do you live so modestly? Why not a big house, a car, expensive clothes? I smiled. Because I don't need to prove anything. Real wealth doesn't shout. The more you have, the less you need to show it. I turned to Veronica. That's why I came dressed like this. That's why I acted poor. To see how you'd treat me if you thought I had nothing. I wanted to see your true nature. And I did. Veronica's face turned red with anger and embarrassment. This is absurd. If you earned that much, we would have known. Marcus would have known. He didn't, I said, because I chose not to flaunt it. I live simply. I save, invest, and build. I don't waste money showing off. Franklin cleared his throat. Even so, you were rude? You misunderstood our intentions. Really? I looked at him. Was I mistaken when you called me a burden? When you offered to pay me $700 to stay away from my son? When you mocked my life? No one answered. I stood up. Let me tell you something that money will never buy. Class, empathy, or real education. You have money, but none of what truly matters. Veronica rose furious. And you do? You lied and made us look foolish. I didn't make you look like fools, I said coldly. You did that yourselves. I just gave you the chance to show who you really are. And you did. Simone's eyes filled with tears. Mother-in-law, I didn't know. I know, I said gently. You didn't, but your parents did. They enjoyed humiliating me until they realized the poor woman they looked down on has more than both of them combined. Veronica trembled. You have no right. I have every right, I said calmly. Because I'm your son-in-law's mother. Because I deserve respect. Not for my money, not for my job, but because I am a human being. Something you seem to have forgotten throughout this dinner. Marcus stood up. Mom, please, let's go. I looked at him. Not yet, son. I'm not done. Then I turned to Veronica one last time. You offered to help me with $700 a month. Let me make you a counteroffer. I'll give you $1 million right now if you can prove that you've ever treated someone kindly who didn't have money. Veronica opened her mouth, then closed it. She said nothing. Exactly, I replied. You can't, because for you, people are only worth what they have in the bank. That's the difference between you and me. I built my wealth. You only spend yours. I earned respect. You buy it. I have dignity. You have accounts. I picked up my old canvas tote and pulled out a sleek black platinum credit card. I placed it on the table in front of Veronica. This is my corporate card. Unlimited limit. Pay for the whole dinner with a generous tip. Think of it as a gift from a broke and naive mother. Veronica stared at the card as if it were dangerous. Black. Shiny. My name engraved in silver. Aller Sterling. Regional Director. Her hand trembled as she picked it up, flipped it over, and looked at me again. The superiority in her eyes was gone. Now there was something else. Fear. I don't need your money, she said, her voice shaking. I know, I replied. But I didn't need your pity either. And yet you offered it all night. So take this as a lesson in courtesy, something you clearly didn't learn despite all your trips to Europe. Franklin hit the table lightly. Enough, this is getting out of control. You're disrespecting us. Respect? I repeated. Interesting that you use that word now. Where was your respect when your wife asked if my salary was enough to live on? When she implied I was a burden to my son? When she offered to pay me to disappear? Franklin clenched his jaw. Veronica just wanted to help, he said. No, I corrected him. Veronica wanted control. She wanted to make sure the poor mother wouldn't ruin her daughter's perfect image. She wanted to remove the weak link in the chain. But she chose the wrong one. I looked at Simone. Her head was bowed, hands trembling in her lap. Simone, I said softly. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my parents— Don't finish that, I interrupted. Because you did know. Maybe not about my money, but you knew exactly what your parents are like. You knew how they treat people they consider beneath them, and you stayed silent, Simone sobbed. I wanted to say something, but they're my parents. I know, I said gently. And Marcus is my son. But I still let him make his own choices. His life, his wife, his path. That's how love works. Through freedom, not control, money, or manipulation. Marcus came closer. Mom, forgive me. Please forgive me for never asking, for assuming, for thinking you were— His voice broke. I hugged him. You don't have to apologize, son. I did this for a reason. I wanted you to be independent, to value the right things, not to depend on my money, to build your own life. But you made me feel I had to protect you, Marcus whispered. I thought you were fragile. I know, I said. And that's not wrong. It means you learned empathy. Something money can't buy. Marcus hugged me tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Veronica was still standing, rigid, watching with a mix of confusion and anger. This changes nothing, she said finally. You lied to us. You came here with bad intentions. That's true, I nodded. I acted. I pretended to be something I'm not. Exactly what you do every day. What do you mean? Franklin asked. It means you hide behind money, behind jewels and trips, behind everything you can buy. But inside you're empty. You have no deep conversations, no real interests, nothing beyond your bank account. Veronica gave a dry laugh. Coming from someone who lied all night, that's hypocrisy. Maybe, I said calmly. But my lie revealed the truth, your truth. Now you can't hide. Now you know I saw you, heard every comment, remembered every insult disguised as advice, and I'll never forget it. The waiter approached carefully. "Excuse me, would you like anything else?" Franklin snapped, "Just the check." The waiter nodded and left. Veronica sat down, defeated. Her posture no longer elegant. It was the posture of someone who had just lost something real. Not money, but power. "Aller," she said softly, "I don't want this to ruin our family's relationship. Marcus and Simone love each other. They have a life together. We can't let this what?" I cut in. "Expose what you really think? It's too late, Veronica. The damage is done." "But we can fix it," she insisted. "We can start over." "No," I said firmly. "We can't. Because now we both know the truth, and that can't be erased by empty apologies or fake smiles. You treated me like trash because you thought you could." Franklin cleared his throat. "You came here lying. You provoked this situation." "You're right," I nodded. "I provoked it because I needed to know, to confirm what I already suspected, that you're not good people, that money doesn't make you better, that you look down on anyone who has less." Veronica wiped a tear. "We're not bad people." "Maybe not," I said. "But you're not good either. And there's a big difference." The waiter returned with the check. No one touched it. Veronica looked at the black card still in her hand, then back at me. "I'm not using your card," she said. "We'll pay as we always do." "Perfect," I replied. "Then keep that card as a reminder that not everything is as it seems, that the woman you mocked tonight has more than you'll ever have. And I'm not talking about money." Veronica placed the card back on the table. "I don't want it. And I don't want your moral lessons either." I pushed it back toward her. "Keep it anyway. You'll need it someday because people like you never learn. You'll meet someone like me again, someone who pretends to be less, and you'll make the same mistake." Franklin took out his wallet, pulled out several shiny gold cards, chose one, and placed it on the check. The waiter took it and left. No one spoke. The silence was heavy and tense. Simone cried quietly. Marcus held my hand. Veronica stared at the wall. Franklin scrolled through his phone. The waiter returned. "Sir, your card was declined." Franklin looked up sharply. "What do you mean, declined?" "Declined, sir." "Do you have another form of payment?" Franklin turned red. "Impossible. That card has a high limit." "It must be a system error." The waiter shrugged. "I can try again." Franklin gave him another card. The waiter left. Veronica looked nervous. "What's happening?" she asked. "I don't know," Franklin said irritably. "Maybe the account was frozen for security." I nodded with mock concern. "Of course these things happen. How inconvenient." The waiter returned again. "I'm sorry, sir. This one was declined too." Franklin stood up angrily. "This is absurd. I'll call the bank right now." He stormed out. Veronica sat in silence, humiliated. "This has never happened to us," she whispered. "What terrible timing," I said coolly. Marcus looked at the check. "Mom, I can—" "No," I stopped him. "You're not paying for this." I took out my old leather wallet and pulled out another card. Not black this time, but transparent, made of metal. Less than 1% of people own it. I placed it on the table. Veronica's eyes widened. "That's a Centurion card," she murmured. "Yes," I said. American Express Centurion, by invitation only. Minimum annual spend, $250,000. Annual fee, $5,000. Privileges beyond your imagination. The waiter returned, handled the card with care, and came back within minutes. "Thank you, Miss Sterling. Everything is settled. Would you like the receipt?" "It's not necessary," I said. He nodded and left. Veronica stared at the empty spot where the card had been. I stood up, picked up my tote and wallet, and looked at her one last time. "The dinner was excellent. Thank you for recommending the place, and for showing me exactly who you are. You saved me time, energy, and disappointment." Veronica looked up, eyes red with restrained anger. "This isn't over," she said, trembling. "You can't humiliate us and walk away. Simone is our daughter. Marcus is our son-in-law. We'll still see each other." "You're right," I smiled. "I'll see you at birthdays, holidays, family gatherings. But now I'll see you differently. I'll no longer wonder what you think of me. I already know. And you'll know that I know. And you'll live with that every single time you see me." Franklin came back, pale. "There's a temporary block on our accounts. It'll be fixed tomorrow. Did you pay already?" "Yes," Veronica said quietly. "She paid?" Franklin looked at me, his pride broken. "Thank you," he muttered. "You're welcome," I replied. "That's what family is for, isn't it? To help each other especially when someone needs a small allowance, say $700, or in this case, $800. The cost of this dinner. Franklin closed his eyes. Veronica clenched her fists. Marcus stepped closer. Mom, let's go. It's enough. You're right, I said. It is. I turned to Simone, still crying softly. Simone, I said gently. She lifted her head. You're not responsible for your parents' actions. No one chooses their family. But you can choose how you behave, how you treat others, and how you'll raise your children one day. Simone nodded through her tears. I'm sorry, she whispered again. Don't apologize again, I told her. Just learn. Learn that money does not define people, that humility is not weakness, that respecting others costs nothing. And if you ever have children, teach them to see the heart of people, not their bank account. Simone sobbed harder. Marcus hugged her. Veronica looked away. Franklin checked his phone, avoiding all eye contact. I headed for the exit. I took a few steps, then stopped and turned around one last time. Veronica, one more thing. She looked at me. Do you remember when you said you speak 4 languages? Veronica frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Just curious, I replied. In which of those 4 languages did you learn to be kind? Because clearly it wasn't in any of them. Veronica opened her mouth, but no words came out. Exactly, I said. You can speak 100 different languages and still not say anything worth listening to. I walked out of the restaurant. Marcus walked beside me. The fresh night air hit my face. I breathed deeply. I felt a huge weight lifted off me. Not physical, but emotional. The weight of pretending, tolerating, keeping silent. Marcus took my arm. Mom, are you okay? Perfectly fine, I replied. Better than ever. And you, Marcus? Marcus sighed. I don't know. I'm processing everything. I can't believe you never told me about your job, about your money, about everything you accomplished. I stopped and looked him in the eyes. Does it bother you? He quickly shook his head. No, of course not. I'm proud. Incredibly proud. But I also feel foolish. Blind. You are not foolish, I told him. You simply saw what I wanted you to see, and I did it on purpose because I needed you to grow up without depending on me, without feeling you had an economic safety net waiting. I needed you to fight, to work, to value everything you achieved on your own. Marcus nodded. I understand. But now I also understand why you never complained, why you never asked for help, why you always seemed so calm. Because you needed nothing, I smiled. I needed many things, son. Only none of them could be bought with money. I needed to see you grow up, see you become a good man, see you make the right decisions. And I achieved that. Even marrying Simone? He asked in a weak voice. Even marrying Simone, I replied. She is not her parents. She can learn. She can change. But that depends on her and on you, on how you build your relationship, on what values you choose to follow. Marcus remained silent, thinking. A taxi stopped in front of us. I had called for a rideshare. I opened the door. Marcus stopped me. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you do it? Why did you come pretending to be poor? Why didn't you just tell them the truth from the beginning? I closed the taxi door. I turned to him. Because I needed to know, son. I needed to confirm if my suspicions were correct. If Simone's family was really as I imagined. And unfortunately, I was right. Marcus lowered his gaze. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize for them, I told him. But you do have to decide what kind of husband you want to be, what kind of father you want to be someday. What do you mean? He asked. I mean that you have just seen 2 very different ways of handling money and power. Your in-laws' way and mine. They use it to control, to humiliate, to feel superior. I use it to have freedom, to help without showing off, to live peacefully. You decide which path to follow? Marcus slowly nodded. I understand. I opened the taxi door again and got in. I rolled down the window. Marcus came closer. Mom, one last question. Tell me, are you ever going to forgive Veronica and Franklin? I thought for a moment. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, I replied. Nor does it mean allowing it to happen again. I might forgive them someday when I see real change. When they start seeing people as people, not as numbers. But until then, I will simply be polite, distant, and extremely cautious. And me? Marcus asked. Do you forgive me for not asking, for assuming, for allowing this dinner to happen? I looked at him tenderly. Son, there is nothing to forgive. You did what you thought was right. You wanted your family to meet. That is beautiful. What happened afterward was not your fault. It was theirs. And a little bit mine too, because I decided to play their game. Marcus smiled weakly. You won, I nodded. But I don't feel victorious. I feel tired and sad because I confirmed something I didn't want to confirm. Some people will never change. Some families are broken even if they have money. And there are voids no bank account can fill. The taxi driver cleared his throat. Ma'am, should we go? Yes, I replied. Give me 1 second. I looked at Marcus one last time. Go to Simone. Talk to her. Listen to her. Support her, but also be honest. Tell her how you felt tonight. Tell her what you expect from her family and from her, because if you don't establish boundaries now, this will happen again and again. I will, Marcus promised. I love you, Mom. And I mean it more now than ever, because now I know who you really are. And you are incredible, I smiled. I love you too, son. I always have. I always will, no matter how much money I have or don't have, because love has no price. And that is a lesson Veronica and Franklin will never learn. Marcus stepped away from the taxi. I gave a signal to the driver. Can we go? The taxi started. I looked out the window. I saw Marcus walking back toward the restaurant, thoughtful. He was probably going back to find Simone, to face his in-laws, to have difficult conversations. And I felt proud because that meant he was maturing. He was learning. He was choosing to be better than the example he had just witnessed. The taxi sped through the city's illuminated streets. I closed my eyes and thought about everything that had happened. Every word, every look, every moment of tension. I wondered if I had done the right thing, if I had been too harsh, too cruel, too vengeful. But then I remembered every disguised insult, every condescending comment, every look of disdain, and I knew that, no, I hadn't done anything wrong. I had simply been honest. Finally, the taxi was crossing the empty streets of the night. The lights of the buildings flashed quickly past the window. I opened my old canvas tote and took out my phone. A simple phone, nothing ostentatious, nothing attention-grabbing. I had 3 unread messages. 1 from my assistant about a Monday meeting. Another from a colleague, congratulating me on a closed contract. And 1 from an unknown number. Opened it. It was from Simone. Mother-in-law, please forgive me. I didn't know my parents would act like that. I'm ashamed. I need to talk to you. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment. I thought about replying, then I decided not to know. She still needed time. Time to reflect. Words that come out of guilt rarely carry real meaning. True change takes time, thought, and action. I put the phone aside. The taxi driver looked at me in the rearview mirror. Excuse me for asking, ma'am. Is everything okay? I looked at him. Yes, everything's fine. Why? Well, you got in very quietly. Normally, people leaving that restaurant are happy, chatting about how good dinner was. You came out like you'd been through a war. I gave a small smile. Something like that. Was it that obvious? He shrugged. I've been driving a cab for 20 years. I've seen it all. Drunk people, fights, breakups, family arguments. And you have that look of someone who finally said what they've been holding inside for years. You're perceptive, I said. Part of the job, he replied. And it helps pass the time. Want to talk about it? You don't have to, but sometimes it helps to tell things to a stranger, someone who won't judge you, someone who doesn't know you. I considered it, tempted, but shook my head. Thank you, but I think I've talked enough for today. He nodded. I understand, but let me tell you something. Whatever happened in there, you did the right thing. I can tell because you're calm. You're not crying, not screaming. You're processing. That means you spoke your truth, and truth, even if it hurts, always brings peace. I was surprised. He looked like a simple man, maybe in his 60s, gray hair, working hands. Simple, like the person I had pretended to be tonight. Do you believe in the truth? I asked. I believe in honesty, he said. Not always the absolute truth, because truth can change depending on who tells it. But honesty? Honesty doesn't. Honesty is saying what you feel, without masks, without lies, even if it hurts, even if it's awkward, even if it costs you something. I nodded. You're right. My wife always said I was too direct, he added, that I hurt people, without meaning to. Maybe she was right, but she also said she never doubted me, because what came out of my mouth was real, not calculated, not manipulated, just real. She sounds like a good woman. She was, he said softly. She died 5 years ago. I'm sorry, I said. Sincerely? He shook his head. Don't be sorry. We had 40 years together. 40 years of honesty, fights, making up, laughter, tears. And never once did I go to sleep wondering what she really thought. Because she always said it. And so did I. That is a gift. You're right, I murmured. It's a gift. The taxi stopped at a red light. Can I ask you something personal? He said. Go ahead. Are you rich? The question caught me off guard. Not the content, but the directness. Why do you ask? Because I picked you up from a 1,000 per person restaurant, but you dress like someone who shops at discount stores. Old bag, worn shoes, but you talk like an executive. Move like someone with power, and you paid my cab with crisp bills from a wallet that looks 20 years old. Observant, I said. Part of the job, he said. So, am I right? Are you rich? It depends on how you define rich, I said. Money? Yes, more than enough. Happiness? Also, yes. Peace, health, a son I love, work I care about. That makes me rich in so many ways. He nodded, satisfied. I knew it. The truly rich don't need to show it. The light turned green, and the taxi moved forward. And what happened in that restaurant? He asked. If it's not too personal. I pretended to be poor, I said, to see how they would treat me. He laughed out loud. Seriously? That's brilliant. And? Like trash, I said calmly. They humiliated me. Offered me alms. Treated me like I didn't exist. He stopped laughing. I'm sorry. That must have hurt. It did, I admitted, but it confirmed something. Was right about them. They weren't worth my time. They didn't deserve my respect. And now they know who I am, and they'll live with that. He whistled softly. Epic, I'd say. It was, I said, smiling. Definitely was. We arrived at my building. Older, middle class, comfortable, safe. Nothing luxurious. You live here? He asked, astonished. I do, I said. He shook his head. You truly are special. Most people with money move to fancy buildings. With doormen, gyms, pools, you live like a normal person. I am a normal person, I said. I just happen to have more money than most. But that doesn't make me better. Money is a tool, not your identity. He smiled. I wish more people thought like that. The world would be better. I pulled out my wallet. How much is it? $30, he said. I handed him a $100 bill. Keep the change. This is too much, he said. No, it's not, I said. You listened to me. You gave me perspective, reminded me that there are still good people. That is worth more than $70. He took the bill carefully. Thank you. Truly, thank you. Thank you. And take care of that honesty. It's rare. It's valuable. Don't lose it. I won't, he promised. I stepped out of the taxi and closed the door. He rolled down his window. Ma'am, one last thing. Whatever happened tonight, don't regret it. Don't feel sorry. People like you, people who speak the truth, even when it hurts, are the ones who change the world, little by little, one conversation at a time. I smiled. Thank you. I'll remember that. The taxi drove away. I stood in front of my building, looking up at my 5th floor window. Dark. Silent. Waiting for me. I entered and climbed the stairs. I never used the elevator. I preferred walking to stay active. I reached my door, took out my keys, the same ones I'd had for 15 years, opened the door. The apartment was cold and empty. I turned on the light. Everything was in its place. Simple living room. Small kitchen. Dining area with mismatched chairs. Walls without expensive artwork. And I felt at peace. This was mine. Truly mine. Not bought to impress. Not decorated to show off. Just a space where I could be myself, without masks. Without pretensions. I took off my old shoes and wrinkled gray dress. Changed into comfortable, familiar pajamas. Made some tea. Sat on the sofa. Turned on the television. News. Nothing of interest. Switched it off. Sat in silence. Thinking. Processing. Feeling. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. Free from pretending. Free from silence. Free from tolerating. Free from being less than I was. That night, I hadn't just exposed Veronica and Franklin. I had freed myself. From expectations. from judgment, from the need to hide who I truly am, and that was priceless. Far more than any number in my bank account. My phone vibrated. Another message from Marcus. Mom, did you get home safely? I smiled and quickly replied, Yes, son. I arrived perfectly fine. I'm home resting. His reply came immediately. I love you. Thank you for everything. For being who you are, for teaching me, for never giving up. I closed my eyes. A tear rolled down my cheek. Not sadness, relief, love, gratitude. I replied, I love you too, always. I set the phone aside, sipped my tea, looked around my simple apartment, my sanctuary. My truth, and I smiled. At the end of the day, none of the money mattered. None of the career achievements mattered. What mattered was this moment, this peace, this honesty with myself. Sunday morning came early. As usual, 40 years of routine had trained me to rise with the sun, even on my day off. I no longer knew how to sleep in, prepared strong black coffee, sat by the window. Hot mug in hand, watched the city wake up, vendors opening stalls, people walking somewhere, life continuing, indifferent to personal dramas. My phone rang, a familiar number. Marcus. Good morning. Son, I answered. Mom, I need to talk to you. Did something happen? I asked. A lot, he said. Last night, Simone and I talked for hours. Her parents were there too. It was intense. I sipped my coffee. Tell me. Marcus sighed deeply. After you left, I went back to the restaurant. Veronica and Franklin were still there, waiting for their cards to work. Humiliating. Simone was crying, devastated. I was furious, more than I have been in years. I stayed silent, listening. I told them everything. Everything I felt during that dinner. I said I was ashamed of them, that they treated my mother like trash, that their behavior was unacceptable and would never be tolerated again. And? I asked. At first, Veronica tried to defend herself, said they were just protecting Simone, making sure I had a stable family, that they didn't mean harm. Franklin said I was exaggerating, that it was a normal dinner, that my reaction was over the top. I squeezed my mug. Typical. But then Simone spoke. Marcus said. She told them they were wrong, cruel even, that she had noticed every look, every comment, every disguised insult. She said she was ashamed to be their daughter in that moment. His voice cracked. Mom, I had never seen Simone confront her parents like that. I smiled faintly. Good, that means she's waking up. Veronica went hysterical, Marcus continued, yelling that Simone was ungrateful, that they sacrificed everything, that she had no right to judge them. Franklin backed her up, said we were being manipulated by you, that you planned this to make them look bad. I let out a dry laugh. Of course it's my fault. That's what made them angriest, Marcus said. I told them yes, you're right. She did plan it. But you fell into the trap because that's who you really are. You treat people you see as inferior badly. She just gave you the chance to show it, and you did. Well said, I murmured. Thanks. I learned it from you. There was a pause. Mom, I need you to know something. Last night I made a decision. Simone and I are setting boundaries with her parents. We won't cut ties, but there are rules. No comments about money. No comparisons. No controlling our lives. If they can't respect that, they'll face the consequences. And I asked. They left furious, he replied. Called us ungrateful. Said we'd regret it. Franklin said he'd reconsider his will. Veronica said Simone chose the wrong family. I shook my head. Emotional blackmail. The last resort of people without arguments. Exactly, Marcus said. But it didn't work. Simone stayed firm. I stayed firm. They left without saying goodbye, without looking back. Honestly, Mom, I felt relief. A huge weight lifted. That's because it was, I said. You lifted the weight of living under their expectations. Now you can build your life how you want, not how they dictate. Thank you, Mom, he said, his voice emotional. Thank you for what you did. I needed to see who they really were. Simone needed to see that there's another way. Honest, authentic. You're welcome, son. I did what I believed was right. There's one more thing, Marcus said. Simone wants to see you. Apologize. Talk. Not as a daughter-in-law trying to look good, but as a woman trying to learn. I thought for a moment. Tell her she can come, but not today. Give her time to reflect. Rushed apologies are hollow. The ones that take time are real. I'll tell her, Marcus promised. One more question, he asked. How are you after all of this? How do you feel? I looked out the window. The sun was fully up. I'm well. Better than well. I'm at peace. I said everything I needed to say. No regrets. I'm glad, Marcus said. I love you. I love you too. Rest. I'll see you soon. I hung up. Finished my coffee. Decided to do something I hadn't done in a long time. Walk without purpose. Just to think. I dressed in comfortable clothes. Old jeans, simple top, worn sneakers, keys in hand. I stepped outside. The streets were full of life. Families strolling. Children running. Couples holding hands. Vendors offering food. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. I walked through the nearby park. Sat on a bench watching people pass. Most of them probably didn't have much money, just enough to get by. Working hard, struggling, yet they smiled, hugged, enjoyed the moment. I thought of Veronica and Franklin. All their wealth, properties, trips, jewels. Were they really happy? Or were they busy trying to prove something? Trying to fill a void with material things? Trying to buy respect, love, value? Things money can't buy. An older woman sat beside me. Good morning, she said with a smile. Good morning, I replied. Beautiful day, isn't it? Very beautiful, I said. She took bread from her bag. Started feeding the pigeons. I come here every Sunday, she said. It's my moment of peace before the week starts. I understand, I said. I need a moment of peace, too. Difficult week? She asked. Something like that. More like a difficult night, I replied. She nodded wisely. Sometimes one night can change everything. You're right, I murmured. May I give you some advice? She asked. Go ahead, I smiled. She pointed to the pigeons. Look at them. Big, small. Pretty feathers. Scruffy feathers. They all share the bread. None think they're better than the others. That's a nice metaphor, I said. It's not a metaphor, she said. It's the truth. Humans invent false hierarchies. Pigeons don't. They just live. Just are. We should learn from them. I smiled broadly. You're right. I should give classes to some people I know. She laughed. Oh, child. At my age, I don't give classes. I just observe and share. Most people don't listen. They're too busy running, buying, competing, forgetting that, in the end, we all end up in the same place. With or without money, jewels, property, we all turn to dust. How philosophical, I commented. How realistic, she corrected. I've lived 82 years. Seen it all. The most miserable people I met had the most, and it was never enough. Always wanting more. Always comparing. They died without truly living, loving, or being. Her words sank deep. Thank you, I said softly, for sharing that. She patted my hand. You're welcome, child. Remember, it doesn't matter how much you have or don't have. What matters is how you treat others. That is what remains. That is what transcends. That is the only inheritance worth having. She slowly stood, put her empty bag away, and waved goodbye. Have a beautiful Sunday. You too, I replied. I watched her walk away. A small woman, hunched with age, wearing old clothes and worn shoes, but with more wisdom than all the Veronicas and Franklins in the world. Combined, I felt grateful. Grateful for that encounter, for that reminder, for that truth. So powerful. I stayed on the bench a while longer, thinking, feeling, processing everything that had happened. And I came to a conclusion. I didn't regret anything. No word, no action. Everything I did last night was necessary. It was liberating. It was honest. And honesty, even when it hurts, is always the right path. 3 days passed. 3 days of silence, processing, reflection. That Wednesday afternoon, I heard the bell. I knew who it was. I opened the door. There she was. Without makeup. Hair in a simple ponytail, jeans and a plain top. No jewelry. No heels. Vulnerable. Real. Different from the woman I'd seen at the restaurant. Mother-in-law, she said softly. May I come in? I stepped aside. Go ahead. She entered slowly, looking around, observing my apartment with new eyes. Simple living room. Old furniture. Walls without expensive decor. I pointed to the sofa. She sat. I sat across, waiting. Not rushing her. Start where you feel ready, I said. I don't know where to start, she finally said. She took a deep breath. I came to apologize. But not just with words. I want to explain why my parents are the way they are. and why I stayed silent so long. I listened in silence. Her voice trembled as she continued. My parents grew up poor, in a small town overseas. No electricity, no running water. Worked in the fields since childhood. They saw their parents die young from lack of medicine and money. They went hungry. They suffered. And they promised themselves they would never be poor again. They would do whatever it took to escape that life. I nodded. I understand. That explains a lot. They worked like animals. Saved every penny. Immigrated seeking opportunity. Franklin built his business from scratch, literally from scratch. When they started earning, they never forgot what it was like not to have money. That's why they talk about it constantly. That's why they measure everything by it. To them, money means survival, security, never going back to that dark place. Trauma does strange things to people, I said. Simone nodded. But that doesn't excuse how they treated you. I know, she replied. And I want you to know that I saw everything. Every comment. Every look. Every insult. I stayed silent because that's how I've lived my whole life. Accepting, letting them control everything. They taught me that contradicting them was betrayal. Ungrateful. And now? I asked. Now I understand I was wrong, she said. Love is not control. Family is not blind obedience. I can love them and still disagree. Marcus helped me see it. You helped me see it. That night, when you revealed yourself, when you told them everything, it was as if a blindfold had been lifted from my eyes. Simone wiped her tears. I always knew something was wrong. I felt the way they measured people was unfair, but I convinced myself it was me. Too sensitive. Misunderstanding the world. You showed me there's another way to live. A way where money doesn't define worth, where humility is strength and authenticity is wealth. I took a sip of water. Simone, I didn't come that night to change you. I came to protect myself, to know who I was dealing with. I know, she replied. And I thank you for that. Your honesty saved me. From becoming my mother, from repeating the cycle, from teaching my future children to value people by what they have. I don't want that. I won't be that. And your parents? I asked. How are they after all this? Simone sighed, furious, hurt, humiliated. Veronica hasn't spoken to me in 3 days. Franklin sent me a message. Said I disappointed him, chose strangers over my blood, and would regret it someday. She paused. And you know what's strange? I don't feel bad. I feel free. That's good, I said. You made the right decision, Simone nodded. Marcus and I set boundaries. They can be part of our lives only if they respect us, our decisions. Stop controlling us with money or guilt. If not, it's a distant relationship. How did they take it? I asked. Badly, Simone said. Veronica said we were ungrateful. Franklin threatened to disinherit me as if that mattered. They think their value is in their wallet. It's sad, I commented. Very sad, Simone agreed. They have so much and enjoy nothing. Just accumulating, competing, showing off. Never asking if they are happy, if they have peace, if they have real connections. They count properties and feel victorious, but inside they're empty. She paused, looking at me. Mother-in-law, I want to ask something. Tell me. I want to learn from you. How to live with dignity. How to be rich without proving it. How to find peace in chaos. How to be strong without cruelty. That night I saw something in you I never saw in my parents. I saw class. Real power. A woman who doesn't need to shout to be heard. I smiled tenderly. Simone, I can't teach that. It's learned by living. By mistakes. Falling. Rising. All I can do is share my experience and say the path is not easy. You will face criticism, judgment, people who won't understand your choices. But if you stay true to yourself, live by your values, you will find peace. Peace is worth more than money. I want to try, Simone said. I want to be better, not just for Marcus, but for me. I deserve to live without constant pressure, without the need to impress, without fear of being enough. Then do it, I said, little by little. Question habits, purchases, motivations. Before every decision, ask, is this for me or for others? Does it bring peace or just appearance? Simone nodded, taking mental notes. And my parents, will they ever change? She asked. I looked honestly at her. I don't know. Change requires seeing a problem. They don't. They think the world is wrong. People are ungrateful. They are victims until they see that change isn't possible. But you can change. You can break the cycle. I will, she promised, with Marcus's help. And your guidance. You don't need guidance, I said. You need your internal compass, that voice telling you right from wrong, the voice you silenced for years to please them. Listen, trust, follow. Simone wiped her last tears. Thank you, mother-in-law, for everything. Patience, honesty, for not giving up. There's nothing to thank me for, I said. Just promise me one thing. When you have children, teach them to value people, not money. Teach empathy, humility, kindness, things that cost nothing but mean everything. I promise, Simone said firmly. I promise with all my heart. We hugged. Warm, honest, no acting, no masks, just two women connecting. Simone left an hour later, lighter, freer, hope in her eyes. I closed the door, sat back on my sofa, looked around my simple apartment, and smiled. This was enough. This was everything. An honest space. An authentic life. Real relationships. I didn't need more. I never needed more. My phone rang. A message from Marcus. Mom, Simone told me about her visit. Thank you for welcoming her. For listening. For giving her a chance. I love you more than words can express. I replied, I love you too, son. Always. I put the phone aside, sat by the window, watched the sunset paint the sky orange and pink, and I understood something fundamental. Real wealth isn't how much you have, it's how much you enjoy. What you have, how much peace you feel, how many genuine people surround you, how many times you can look in the mirror and be proud of yourself. Veronica and Franklin had millions, but I had this tranquility, this authenticity, this pure love for my son, and that made me infinitely richer than them. I never pretended to be poor again. I didn't need to. I had learned what I needed. I had seen what I needed. I had liberated what I needed. Veronica and Franklin continued as they were. Rich in money, poor in spirit. But that was no longer my problem. I had spoken my truth, set boundaries, protected my peace. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't have to pretend. I was simply a mother, an executive, a woman, a survivor, a fighter, rich in every sense that truly mattered. And that was more than enough. It was everything. Did you like the story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked it, support me with a super thanks so I can keep bringing stories like this. Thank you for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.